Now, 12 states in Nigeria are expected to take a direct hit from excess water released by authorities in Cameroon from Lagdo Dam, which is located on the borders with Nigeria. There are reports that some parts of states, including Benue, Kogi, and Anambra, are already witnessing massive flooding of farms and destruction of property. This is the latest in a series of unprecedented losses incurred by Nigerians as a result of this dam, and a growing sore point in the relationship between Nigeria and Cameroon. Ibrahim Farinoye is coordinator, Lagos Territorial Office of National Emergency Management Agency, and he joins us now to discuss preparations to avert further losses. Good afternoon, Mr. Farinoye. Thank you for joining us on Newsday.
Good afternoon, ma. How are you, ma?
So I'll just begin with the basics. Are you content with the level of preparations that you're witnessing in Nigeria in order to prevent tragedy due to the release of water from the Lagdo Dam?
Yes, I'm very much contented with the preparedness, and all the mitigation activities that are in place now.
All right then, but if we're looking at the release of water from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon, it's of course raised concerns among many Nigerians, especially given the severity of flooding that was experienced in 2022. And the ministry has been alerting communities residing close to the River Benue banks and the associated areas to move to higher ground. How effective has this communication been, and what strategies are you ensuring or putting in place to ensure that the vulnerable population receive these warnings in time?
Well, it's not just the Lagdo Dam issue, because the information is coming from outside the country. Maybe that's why it's attracting much attention. However, prior to this time, since January this year, all agencies, especially National Emergency Management Agency, State Emergency Management Agency, and other lead agencies in various aspects of rainfall and related flood issues have been up and doing in their responsibility. You know, we have so many issues. Lagdo Dam just contributes less than 20% of most of the issues that we have. Presently now, as of yesterday, our guys are still at the Bakinrua, very close to the border, and that's the first community that will be hit by any release of water from Lagdo Dam. And as at now, it's almost at less than 5% water is getting to this community at this time of the period. So we are fully prepared, and the community members are fully prepared. They've been mobilized. We have reached out to the faith-based organizations, the traditional institutions around those areas. They are working. The local governments are working. The camping issue, we have various types of displacement camp system. We have established camp, which is a closed camp where governments construct structures to accommodate various types of people and attend to their needs. Aside from this, we have other institutional structures, just like secondary schools, primary schools, all institutions, educational institutions, and other government, either private or government structures that can be used for camping. The global standard in humanitarian services is emergency managers must take services to the people where they decided to relocate to. So all what we need that we are working on, we have the data, we have the population of each community. Wherever they decide to move to, we have the leadership of the community members to reach out to us. Oh, we have so number of families in this community. We have so number of families in other communities. So it is for us now to have access and get services to them wherever they have decided to move on to. So the arrangements, the plans have been there. We've been able to talk with the River Basin Authority, along through the Ministry of Water Resources, and most of their water from the river, from the dams, have been released. They've started releasing it from January till date. They are still removing it, and as at now, we don't have much problem. At Lokoja, the monitoring of flow of at the confluence, as of yesterday overnight, most of the water we had there at the Lokoja site have dropped down to almost zero level based on what we are monitoring as at now.
We certainly hear you, Mr. Farinoye, and kudos for your efforts. But we do understand that there are reports that, in some parts of states in Nigeria, including Benue, Kogi, and Anambra, that they're already witnessing massive flooding of farms and destruction of property. So are you saying that you don't have any concerns about what the release of water from the Lagdo Dam would do in these areas, because everything looks good at this time in terms of preventing any further disaster?
Yes, in disaster risk reduction, the main issue, one, is the political will, creating the political will of the political leaders. Once the leaders have shown their will to work on preventing disasters, that's the number one achievement. Then the most important next is empowering the people. Once the people have the right information at a particular time, and decision to be taken by the people themselves is a very, very good step for them to go on with. So for as at now, issues happening in some of the states are part of the normal rainfall that are coming in, not that of Lagdo Dam as an. So arrangements have been made at this local and state level for them to address all other developing situation within the local level.
Okay, so we know that flood-related emergencies often demand swift and well-organized responses. And in your earlier response to my question, you've spoken on how NEMA has trained its personnel. But are you satisfied with how equipped your response teams are to handling emergency situations that might arise due to this imminent flooding? Now, I'm asking if there are any contingency plans in place for rescue and relief operations, because with this Lagdo Dam release, we're looking at a displacement of communities and damage to property and infrastructure. So does NEMA have what it takes to be able to provide immediate assistance, including shelter, food, medical care to those that might be or are already affected by the flooding?
Yes, NEMA is fully prepared. And let me remind you this. NEMA is not an agency on its own. All other components of the nation is at the disposal of the National Emergency Management Agency, the Nigerian Army, all stakeholders, any institution, any materials you have here is part of NEMA, is at the disposal of NEMA to mobilize and make use of. For instance, we have all the contingency plan. We have all the NEMA warehouses, zonal, operational, or territorial office have stock balance. We stockpile various types of relief materials to respond to such thing. Aside from that, we have distributed specific medical consumables to some hospitals. Like in Lagos, we have 5 hospitals that have been empowered. We have the Lagos State Teaching Hospital, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, we have Lagos State University of Lagos, we have Nigerian Air Force Referral Center, we have the Nigerian Army Referral Center at Yaba, we have Agege hospital that have been empowered with medicament. At the same time, when you talk of search and rescue, it's a daily activities for us to empower our personnel adequately. Disaster management is very, very dynamic. And based on this dynamism, we move based on what happens at a particular time and adopt the challenges that it may pose.
Mr. Farinoye, again, kudos for your preparedness in this matter. But I'm quite curious regarding how you've made your strategies adaptable, based on peculiar state situations. For instance, in some areas like in Niger State, where we've seen some, level of insecurity and whatnot, and that's also a state that was listed as one of those that might be affected by the release of the Lagdo Dam. How did you factor in displacement due to, insecurity and whatnot in terms of assessing your preparedness for such scenarios and states?
Well, assessing displacement or assessing the people, we can, disaster risk reduction or disaster management is bottom-up approach. We make use of the local system, local capacity. We develop them, equip them, we integrate the local system to modern strategies to get the perfect solution. If you are to manage disaster, you can't manage disaster from the top. You manage from the grassroots. So the community members are involved. The students, where we have disaster risk reduction clubs all over, we develop them. They give us information. They mobilize resources along with other established resources. So getting in touch with displacement and other things, we have structures. The primary, all the institutions that are supposed to accommodate people are established, and all we have to get is get the information where incident happen. We have told the community members what to do at a particular time, the needs that they need to have at hand before moving out, before the disaster come, all the essential relief issues that they're supposed to have, like their personal medicaments, torchlights, and all these other important things. Some of them may have specific health issues. So once they have it first, once we have the information at the right time, we get there to move them. And we have the Nigerian, all the armed forces are one of our major partners that can be mobilized at any time to move out and work out for Nigerians.
Yes, I do have to commend your proactiveness. And when we are looking at it on a more national scale, we know that Nigeria's population density means that many people currently live in flood-prone areas. So are there any strategies that are in place to enhance long-term resilience and encourage the relocation of vulnerable communities to safer zones to reduce the impact of future flood disasters? And also, given the experiences of flooding in Nigeria, what lessons have been learned? And how have these lessons been incorporated into the current preparations to handle the dam release situation? So, of course, moving people into safer areas so that we don't have to deal with this and the lessons learned.
Well, let me state this. The National Emergency Management Agency, with the stakeholders, they've never relented in their approach to preventing or mitigating any effect. After an incident like that of last year, after the incident of last year, the Director General, the agency directed that post-disaster reassessment, reappraisal should be done. And in Lagos, we identified about 25 communities. After identification of that communities, we identified gaps, and those gaps were discussed with the state representative, with local government representative, with the community members who came up, and based on this, the state government worked with NEMA. We filled almost 98% of the gaps, and the only 2% that we could not even solve immediately are being handled based on an emergency phase, if it happens, how to handle it. About mobilizing evacuating any vulnerable population, the National Emergency Management Agency, with its stakeholders yesterday in Abuja, coordinated by the Director General, had resolved on what to do at the particular time when there is a community that is vulnerable to be evacuated for easy and services to the people.
Well, Mr. Farinoye, I would just go back to what you mentioned about you reaching out, for instance, to faith-based organizations and whatnot in terms of, your preventative measures. I'd just like to wondering what the response has been in terms of your stakeholders' response. Have they all been positive, or are there some that might be able to, step up their game ahead of this?
Yes, all the stakeholders, irrespective of the category of stakeholders, because ordinary Nigerians is part of stakeholders. Disaster, when disaster occurs, it happens in a particular community. The members of the community are part of our stakeholders. So when they alert us, we give them instruction what to do. So if they don't have a prior knowledge of what they are supposed to do, it's not when emergency comes. So we always reach out to them. For instance, we are training some crop of people since yesterday, and at the police college the training is still continuing. On Sunday we are going to Catholic Church at Ogba to train some of them all over like that. So the response have been coming in, and more Nigerians are showing more interest to be trained, especially the school children. The NYSC corps members, they are being mobilized properly, and they are showing more interest. Even the officials of NYSC and other institutions are showing more interest to be trained in their institutional, in their offices and other workplaces, so that they will be empowered. You know, creating resilience is information and proper training. So we need to imbibe this. I am also calling on your organization so that we can be trained. Every community has its own challenges. We have our own risk. Let us identify it, train you on it. So creating the resilience of all Nigerians is part of disaster management, and all of us must have part of it.
As we begin to wrap up now, we're looking at the body language from this interview, of course, from the National Emergency Management Agency, assuring Nigerians that everything is under control and that steps are being taken to mitigate the potential negative impacts of the dam release. But I'm curious to know about how far international cooperation has gone, because it's key to managing this cross-border disaster threat. How, if you could assess how the Nigerian government has been working with the Cameroonian authorities to ensure transparent information sharing and collaborative action in dealing with this dam release. How would you assess this collaboration between the two governments?
Disaster knows no boundary. And because of this, all nations across the world, they work hand in hand so that humanitarian aspect of saving life and property is number one. We have other international organizations working with us. We have UN, OCHA, United Nations Organization, Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. They are involved. UNHCR is involved. UNDPR is involved. They are part of the management disaster stakeholders that were held yesterday. So flow of information is ongoing. The NISA, Ministry of Water Resources, they are in close contact with Cameroonian authority, with Nigerian authority. The NIMET, the World Meteorological Organizations are working with us, giving us updates on regular basis.
Well, kudos to you, Mr. Ibrahim Farinoye, coordinator of Lagos Territorial Office of NEMA. Thank you for your prepared action, and we hope that everything goes as you've anticipated.